If you're over 18 and have a pulse, New York's hottest race is the special election for public advocate. The election, which fills the seat vacated by now New York Attorney General Tish James, is being held on February 26th. So who are these candidates? What are their platforms? And why should we care? I know I need help figuring out who to vote for, so we've invited two people in the know to help us become educated voters. As executive editor of City Limits, our friend Jarrett Murphy is as up on local politics as anyone. Great to see you, Jarrett. Thanks for being on the show. And Brian Vines is not only BRIC TV's managing editor and a frequent guest host in this studio, but just last week he co-moderated a public advocates debate, and he'll tell us why it was less than a roaring success. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with what the public advocate does and why we should care about this role. Jarrett?
Well, public advocate is one of New York City's 3 citywide officials. The mayor and the comptroller are the others. It's technically the number 2 official if the mayor dies or gets arrested or something. Public advocate takes over for a little while. But the main purpose of the job is to be kind of a check on the mayor's power. New York has what's called a strong mayor system. The mayor has a tremendous amount of power, city council very little. So the public advocate is there to collect complaints, investigate stuff, basically keep tabs on the mayor, has the ability to put legislation into the city council, and under Tish James, the most recent one, went to court a lot to try to challenge the city to do or not do certain things. So it's one of those offices that really takes the stamp of the person who wins it in terms of priorities. Doesn't have a huge budget, not a huge staff, but some potential to make a difference, as some past public advocates have.
And Brian, it's really a springboard in some cases to other offices.
Well, it was for our current mayor, who, of course, was the only public advocate to go on to become the mayor. So there's definitely an eye toward larger government. This is sort of an audition. And like Jarrett said, they're next in the line of succession. And there was some talk among some electeds that I talked to about maybe modifying that. We know the charter's coming up, so there's going to be some opportunity to rewrite or codify some of the things that the public advocate's office is responsible for. And some people think maybe they shouldn't be in the line of succession, that it becomes too political a job when you're supposed to be the sort of bully pulpit ombudsman for the city, to be saying, am I really doing what's best for the city or just shoring up my chances of being mayor next?
And that's not the only complaint about the position. Some people actually want it abolished entirely. Is that right, Jarrett?
That's right. That's been true virtually since the day it was formed. It dates back to 1993. That was the first election where they had a public advocate on the ballot. Mark Green was the first one. That's right. And yeah, people have been against it from the beginning, that it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, it's just a stepping stone. And I think that, you know, if you're a person who believes in the strong mayor system and believes the city council's got its covered, doesn't really like the back and forth of politics, you might say that. I think, you know, public advocates in the past have highlighted important issues. Certainly during the Giuliani administration, Mark Green really was maybe the focal point of the opposition to that mayor. You know, Betsy Gotbaum raised some interesting questions about Mayor Bloomberg on education reform, on ACS. De Blasio put out a lot of housing stuff, did some stuff on guns, and Letitia James, you know, in terms of the worst landlords list and some of her lawsuits, has prosecuted some interesting, you know, policy issues.
And what's the ACS?
The Administration for Children's Services, the child welfare, foster care, that kind of stuff.
Great.
But I think where the real criticism can come was, just like Jarrett said before, it really is up to whoever's sitting in that seat to define what it is that that office is going to do. Like Tish James had more bills that she introduced into the city council and co-sponsored legislation that she introduced, as well as lawsuits that she was bringing against, in some cases, the city, than Bill de Blasio did in 3 years in the office. She did in her short time there.
Right. I mean, the actual job description is responsible for receiving and investigating complaints concerning city services and other administrative actions of city agencies. But it does sort of seem that it can be molded into whatever people want.
Everybody would say, yeah, sign me up. That's why you had 25 people trying to get the job.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. How many people today are running for public advocate?
So the ballot that we'll see on February 26th will have 17 names, but only 16 of those are active. One, Latrice Walker, assembly member from Brooklyn, pulled out. So 16 names. I believe that is the most crowded field we've ever had for a citywide office in this modern New York City history.
And you have to look at that number when, like, the last time the borough president's job was open in Brooklyn, how there was such a dearth of people who were ready to throw their hat in the ring, but all of a sudden we had multiple, like dozen wanting to run for a public advocate. And I think a part of that is, to become vested in the city's pension, an elected official has to spend 10 years on the job. City council gives you 2 4-year terms, and Bloomberg is not here to save the city again and re-up for a third. So, maybe I'm a little cynical.
So cynical,
5
Brian.
minutes into my life in New York City and listening to politics. But there are some people who would say, hey, I could do this, and it keeps my name out there should I want to be the mayor or any other public office, because 4 years, 2 terms, that's 8 years later, and then you're just going to trade in all that capital to go work internally at the DOE or something when you might have an aspiration to be any other name above the door kind of thing. So public advocate.
Also, this is a very special election because it's a special election. There's no party primary, so you have most people in this race are Democrats. Normally, they'd be winnowed out the primary process. There's no primaries for a special election, so everybody has to pick up their own kind of kooky party name, like Fix the MTA or It's Time, Let's Go.
Well, funny you mentioned that, guys, because that segues nicely into a little game we would like to play with you. This game is called Match the Candidate to Their Slogan, all right? So
I'm already embarrassed.
So you guys can just chime in, you're on the same team, all right? Whose slogan is the people's voice?
Oh, I know the lawyer guy. He's like the people's lawyer.
Jarrett Rich.
This is actually Jumaane Williams.
Oh, wow. What do you call
the
him?
people's voice?
The people's voice.
The people's voice.
Okay. That's what they all say.
Right, is everyone the people's voice?
Person at the debate that I co-moderated for the folks at Vita, they were all the people's voice. Yes.
Yeah, nobody doesn't want to be the people's voice,
No one's going to say they're
right?
not. Yeah.
Well, okay, speaking of that, there are 2 people who actually have very similar slogans. So tell me whose slogans these are. Fix the MTA and Fix MTA and NYCHA now.
I know Melissa Mark is
Fix the MTA.
That's correct, yes.
Fix MTA and NYCHA
and NYCHA now. I know Tony Herbert's a big NYCHA person, but he wouldn't put in.
I don't know. Is it Michael
Okay,
Blake?
that's Michael Zumbluskas.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right.
All right.
What about United for Immigrants?
It wouldn't be.
Raphael Espinal?
No.
That's racist, because you're just
I apologize.
representing Bushwick and all those folks, but I know it's not him. But I don't know.
I'm not sure how to pronounce this person's first name. Idanis Rodriguez?
Oh.
Idanis?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That Manhattan.
A lot.
Right.
Yeah, he's been arrested. He's in the cause.
Got it.
For
Okay.
protesting some not savory policies regarding the treatment of
Great.
immigrants.
Thank you for clarifying
On the right
that
side,
arrest.
The right
Yes.
side of the
A good
arrest.
arrest.
Yes.
What about Liv Moss?
That would be Espinal. He made the night mayor position.
That's actually Taco Bell. So we just threw that one in
I'm
there.
leaving.
Thought I finally found my vote.
Here are 2, Equality for All and Taste the Rainbow. One of these is a slogan for Public Advocate, and one of them is for Skittles.
Taste the rainbow. is
Okay,
definitely
and
for
Equality for All is?
Danny O'Donnell.
Danny O'Donnell. Very good. You guys, you passed with flying colors.
I was trash.
I want to close out, Brian, by asking you about you co-moderated a debate
I
recently,
did.
and it was a bit of a mishigas. So tell us what happened.
Vita is the Vanguard Independent Democrats Association, or it's a very storied and phenomenal Democratic club in central Brooklyn. Yeah, Democratic Association. They have a fantastic history of really being relevant and pushing and being transformative, especially for folks of color in central Brooklyn. And they hosted a debate, and there were 24 folks who said they would come through. They tried to whittle it through all the way until the last moment with the trees dropping out and people not having the right funds, people who didn't make it to the ballot. So I think there were about 18 folks who were confirmed. 8 candidates came through. And I can say the first 4 who were in the House and absolutely there, secure before the time, were Brooklynites. They were Jumaane, Raphael, I have it written down, Michael Blake, and someone else. But they were all there. and 8 people actually showed up. There were about 1,100 people reserved to be in the auditorium at Boys and Girls High School right on Fulton. And it happened to be the 31st, which was a 16-degree day, the coldest day of the year.
That's not cute. Nobody's leaving their house.
That was on the
Even
thermometer,
candidates.
right?
Yeah.
So the 4 people were there, and then the 4 other trickled in because there are forums all over the city. So how do you prepare for a debate with even 18 people? So we had a round-robin round where there were no answers. You had to stand in the affirmative or sit down if you were negative, on questions ranging from, have you taken money from the real estate lobby? Just do you support mayoral control? Like a bunch of different, just so people know who's in the room. And then we group them together according to their certain views or perspectives on the MTA and just other issues.
This isn't
in
a
the
debate.
city.
This is just sorting by like shapes and
It
colors.
really was, but I think it was instructive for the folks who did show up because you did get answers without a lot of politicking, because my co-moderator, Esmeralda Simmons of the Center for Law and Social Justice at Medgar Evers, was a very tough taskmaster and didn't give AF and kept people on their P's and Q's. So it was interesting, but I don't understand how it could have been any better, but it certainly could have been worse, but it's a lot.
It can always be worse.
And it matters.
There you go. It does matter,
It's an
and it's
office
a
that
really
matters.
challenging race because, look, it's hard to wade through this field of candidates. So maybe we can close, Jarrett and then Brian, just by telling us maybe who the 3 most serious candidates, in your opinion, are, so that people can maybe use that as a jumping off point to do a little more research.
Oh, that's tough. Well, I won't say that. I'd say go to citylimits.org. We have a voter's guide. You can look for yourself. There are a lot of people with serious ideas.
Yeah.
Although I now know if I ever run, my party name will be Given AF. I really do.
Very good.
Well, if you need a running mate, Esmeralda might be inclined to. But I say what Jarrett said. His is one of my daily clicks, so City Limits always makes me seem smarter than I am. But I can tell you in the room, and this is no way an endorsement, but Jumani seemed to really connect with the folks in the room. It was very impressive. Someone who was a bit of a surprise to me, but I thought came out very forceful, although she was late, was the former journalist, investigative journalist, Nomiki
Const.
Nomiki Const was impressive.
Pay people more.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
You ain't never gonna lose with paying
Yeah,
people
right?
more. But those 2 were 2 to watch. Jumani, as you might expect, but she was one of the dark horses. And I think someone to watch in future is Ben Yee. He came out of the Obama the campaign, and said he declined a job in the administration later. He's the president of the New York, in Manhattan, the Democratic.
Yeah, very smart guy.
So he's one to watch. Like if they're like the other people will fight, but he might have a future, I think.
Okay, well, the election is February 26th. Go vote. Jarrett, Brian, thank you so much for joining us to talk about the public advocate race.
Thank you.
MacKenzie.